Welcome back, everyone, to another explainer. Today, we're jumping into a topic that, honestly, sometimes feels a bit like modern magic, right? But it's actually this highly structured, incredibly logical discipline, cybersecurity. And instead of just, drowning in a sea of jargon, we're going to map out the entire landscape using a blueprint. Think of this as your absolute master plan for building a literal, impenetrable digital fortress from the ground up.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because look, when you first zoom out and take a look at this complete cybersecurity roadmap, it's an absolute wall of information, isn't it? It's this massive, sprawling, interconnected web of operating systems, hardware components, network protocols, attack vectors, defensive tools, the whole shebang. It literally spans everything from figuring out what a basic router does, all the way up to advanced zero-day threat hunting.
And seeing all of that at once, it naturally leads to a very real sense of intimidation. You might be staring at it right now, scratching your head and asking, how do you even begin to tackle this absolute mountain of info without getting hopelessly lost in the weeds? And hey, that is a completely valid question. I mean, you don't build a fortress by dropping the roof in first, right? You've got to follow a specific logical sequence.
So to make sense of that massive roadmap, we're going to break it down into 6 really manageable stages: the IT and networking foundation, understanding the threat landscape, defense, tools and response, mastering cloud and code, earning your certifications, and finally, your interactive journey begins.
All right, let's kick things off with Phase 1, the IT and networking foundation. Just like in real-world construction, you absolutely cannot build a secure fortress without pouring a solid bedrock first. Before you can secure a system, you have to know exactly how it works.
The very first block of that foundation? The operating system. Now, most of us are incredibly familiar with the Windows Graphical User Interface, or GUI. It's super visual, it's point and click, it's easy. But to really thrive in cybersecurity, you've got to become intimately comfortable with Linux and macOS, and specifically through the Command Line Interface, or CLI. You know how hackers in movies are always typing furiously in green text? Yeah, there's a reason for that. They live in the CLI. You need to know how to navigate, understand permissions, and troubleshoot without ever touching a mouse. Now, what's really interesting about this part of the blueprint is how it illustrates the actual plumbing of our digital fortress. Once your operating systems are up, they have to talk to each other. And this is where networking and the OSI model come in. You have to understand the specific functions of these core protocols. Things like DHCP for assigning IP addresses, DNS for resolving names, and protocols like SSH, HTTP, and FTP for data transfer. Plus, you need to grasp network topologies, star, ring, mesh, and really get the difference between public and private IPs. Because bottom line, if you don't know how the data flows, you can't possibly protect it.
Okay, once that foundation is poured and the plumbing is hooked up, we shift to Phase 2, understanding the threat landscape. We're transitioning from how the network is built to understanding exactly how threat actors try to tear it down.
But before we get into the really complex attacks, we need to understand the core philosophy of information security, which is beautifully captured in the CIA triad. That's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Look, every single attack out there is ultimately trying to compromise one or more of these 3 pillars. Threat actors either want to steal secret data, breaking confidentiality, they want to alter your data, breaking integrity, or they just want to take your systems offline entirely, breaking availability. It's a remarkably simple framework, but it totally grounds all the technical jargon we're about to hit.
And attackers have a massive arsenal to target that triad. Our roadmap categorizes these threats so we can actually wrap our heads around them. Just imagine an attacker's campaign for a second. They might kick things off with social engineering, maybe sending a really deceptive phishing email, or literally tailgating an employee into a building to steal credentials. Once they're inside, they pivot to network attacks, maybe running a man-in-the-middle attack to intercept data, or denial of service. Or they might go straight for your applications with web attacks, using SQL injection to trick your databases, or cross-site scripting to attack users' browsers. The crazy thing is, it's almost never just one attack. It's usually a chain of these methods linked together.
Knowing how they attack brings us straight to Phase 3, defense, tools, and response. This is our armory. This is where the blue teams who defend, the red teams who test those defenses, and the purple teams who do a little bit of both really go to work.
The absolute guiding principle here is defense in depth. We don't just build one big perimeter wall, like a single firewall, and call it a day, assuming we're perfectly safe. No, we layer our security controls. If an attacker manages to bypass the firewall, boom, they hit an intrusion prevention system. Think of it like an active alarm system that actually fights back. If they somehow get past that, they face endpoint detection and response, or EDR, which is actively monitoring the host machine itself. We might even set up honeypots, these fake, intentionally vulnerable systems just to distract them. Multiple layers simply mean multiple chances to catch the bad guys in the act.
And this brilliantly illustrates the incredibly diverse toolkit a modern defender uses to monitor all those layers. You've got port scanners like Nmap to see exactly what's open on your network. You have packet analyzers like Wireshark to inspect the literal traffic flowing through the wire in real time. Find a suspicious file, you run it through VirusTotal. Need to do some hardcore digital forensics? You fire up tools like Autopsy to analyze disk images. And the best part is, all of these logs and alerts get fed into a central dashboard, a SIEM platform or security information and event management system like Splunk, which correlates all that massive data and helps threat hunter spot the needle in the haystack.
But seriously, what happens when the alarms actually go off? Well, incident response is not some chaotic running around with your hair on fire panic. It is a highly structured action plan. Our blueprint outlines 6 exact steps. First is preparation, having your runbooks ready well before disaster strikes. Then, identification, actually confirming a breach happened. Next is containment, to stop the bleeding, right? Followed swiftly by eradication, to rip the threat out entirely. Only then do you move to recovery, getting the business back online safely. And finally, lessons learned, so you can figure out how to stop it from ever happening again.
Let's keep moving and shift to Phase 4 to see how all this builds into modern environments, mastering cloud and code. Because the days of all your servers just sitting in a locked, freezing cold closet down the hall, those are largely over. We have to scale our fortress.
We have to adapt to borderless environments now, which makes cloud security absolutely paramount. You need to intimately know the shared responsibility models, whether you're renting the software, the platform, or the entire infrastructure itself. Securing physical, on-premises hardware is just fundamentally different than securing virtual assets deployed out in AWS, Google Cloud Platform, or Microsoft Azure. You've got to understand how to manage identity, storage buckets like S3, and those complex virtual networks floating in the cloud. And to manage these massive, highly scalable environments, you really need to know how to code. Scripting is basically the mortar holding all our modern digital bricks together. Python and Go, they are phenomenal for writing custom security tools and automation. JavaScript is absolutely crucial for understanding those web attacks we talked about earlier. C++ helps immensely if you're getting into reverse engineering malware. And mastering Bash for Linux and PowerShell for Windows, that is absolute table stakes for automating your daily defensive tasks so you don't lose your mind doing manual work.
Which brings us neatly to the 5th stage, earning your certifications. You've built the foundation, you've studied the threats, learned the tools, mastered the cloud. Now it's time to actually validate that knowledge and put the final polish on your building process.
Certifications are just a fantastic way to structure your learning and, frankly, prove your skills to employers. And there's a very clear hierarchy here. You pour the concrete with beginner certs, like the CompTIA triad, A+ for hardware, Network Plus for the plumbing, and Security Plus for the foundational concepts. Then, as you start to specialize, you essentially build the roof with advanced certifications. Think the Certified Ethical Hacker, the highly technical OSCP for penetration testing, or the gold standard CISSP for security management.
But here's the thing, certifications are just theory if you don't actually practice. You have to get your hands dirty. Our roadmap specifically points out these incredible Capture the Flag, or CTF platforms. You can think of these as digital escape rooms where you can legally and safely test out these skills. Platforms like Hectabox, TryHackMe, VulnHub, Pico CTF, and the Sans Holiday Hack Challenge, they provide these amazing simulated environments to practice exploiting systems and defending networks. This is exactly where all that textbook knowledge truly transforms into muscle memory.
And that brings us to our final section. Your interactive journey begins. We've decoded the map. We've traced the path from basic hardware all the way to advanced cloud defense. Now, we finally reach the destination for your ambitious learning journey.
At the very bottom of that massive, sprawling blueprint we looked at earlier, there's just one final, incredibly simple note. It simply says, keep learning. Because cybersecurity, it's not a destination, it's a continuous evolution. Threat actors are literally inventing new techniques every single day, which means defenders must constantly adapt. Honestly, the very moment you think you know it all is the exact moment your fortress becomes vulnerable.
So the crucial point is, you really shouldn't have to navigate this completely overwhelming map alone. Today, we are so excited to launch a brand new interactive teaching series based entirely on this exact roadmap. We're going to take everything we just summarized and walk through it step by step, node by node, with real hands-on labs and interactive sessions. We are going to build that foundation together.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Which part of the blueprint will you master first? Are you going to dive straight into the Linux command line, explore the depths of network protocols, or jump right into web vulnerabilities? The map is fully laid out in front of you, and the tools are ready and waiting. Join us today in the new series, and let's start building your digital fortress. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the very first interactive session.